Hello. So I'm going to do a practice called transparent communication. Normally, it's done between two people, and it's really simple. Just each person just literally reports like what's going on, what their direct experience is. Then the other person shares what their direct experience, and it goes back and forth. And it's some of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. And to boot, whenever I do it, it puts me into some kind of samadhi. So I thought I'd do it here on this channel. And anyone watching this is welcome to share what's real for them, share their experience. So, hi, live viewer. So, again, it's just this process of peeling back. So, for example, right here, right now, I'm very curious about who this person is who's watching live right now. So, I'm just going to report. I'm going to give a report on whatever's happening over here. So there's a feeling of deep peace. There's a sense of settling. There's also a little tension. I know there's just remembering that last couple of videos I haven't been so satisfied with, and many people didn't like. So there's just a little tension as that comes to memory. It's a deep, deep spaciousness. It's kind of I don't know how to put it into words. It's like there's like this expanding, but then there's also just like this feeling of emptiness. Like I'm aware of all these objects, but there's also this sense that everything is just kind of empty, but not in a bad way, empty in a full way. There's a sense of all sense of me just vanishes, but there's still this like something that feels very alive, very, but it feels both personal and non-personal. It doesn't feel like it's me, but it feels good. It feels alive. There's kind of this thought like, oh, I'm so wise. And there's also kind of this, oh, wanting other people to see me as wise. It's just like this little blip. And then, of course, there's amusement at that. Yeah, there's this very, very deep feeling. So hard to put to words. The words that come are like nothingness, yet fullness, and that it feels very good. There are moments where this feeling seems like it's focused in my body, and then there's moments where it feels like it's kind of everywhere. Like right now, it's really focused in the body, focused right here, kind of focused along the spine. There's this wondering if anyone will get any benefit from this. And noticing that I'm getting benefit, hoping that that's passed along somehow. There's a feeling of coming into the present moment, but it's more like coming into presence. There's this real sense that it's kind of funny, but this real sense of like the only things that exist are the things I can see right now. Like anything beyond what I can see, it's almost there's this thought feeling, more like a feeling that it just doesn't exist, that it's not real. Which is, of course, amusing because there's one person watching live, or so this little, on my computer screen, it has like a little icon for people and it has a little one. So who knows if someone's watching, but I know that the icon is has a one next to it. And once again, there's kind of thoughts and feelings about, yeah, my last couple of videos and some of the comments I received, and just feeling done with having online dialogues with people who disagree with me or don't like what I'm doing. It's just not happy to have a live conversation, but it's really just, yeah, just some frustration with that and just like, oh, please, God, no more. And then all those thoughts and feelings are very gone, and there's just this deep stillness. Don't even really want to talk. Hmm. Then there's this deep stillness, but there's also kind of this awareness of circumstances of like, oh, I'm doing a live YouTube broadcast, and then it's kind of like it's interesting. It's like there's deep stillness, then there's like, oh, I'm making a live YouTube broadcast, and then there's all these other little subtle thoughts of like memories of doing that, and just all kind of thoughts about the phenomenon of like YouTube videos, the both the joyful and the painful of this phenomenon called YouTube channel, having YouTube channel. There's some curiosity how people will react to this. There are thoughts like, wow, if everyone did this, if everyone could just be like, could be real about their experience, like, oh, that would somehow lead to peace on earth. Like that's in this moment, that's like the sense of like, oh, that would work. And then some skepticism about that working, but there's curiosity because there's deep peace, bliss, almost slight edge of ecstasy. Just wondering what's the relationship between that and the peace that Ramana Maharshi spoke of. In fact, there's a memory. Here I am hopping into teacher mode. There's a memory of him saying that ecstasy was like the final barrier to realization because that's like this sense of like there's me and there's the feeling of ecstasy. And when he said when that passes, then there's just deep peace. And it's like, oh, please, please, Bhagavan, deep peace. Yes, please. Deep peace that doesn't end. There's, yeah, intense stillness. Keep having a little self-consciousness about my voice. There's a little congested this morning. It's very funny. When I'm not in some kind of samadhi, I'm not saying this is exactly the samadhi that there's definitely a melting of ego right now and a non-identification with it. Um, just notice I started touching my cross. I've been wearing a cross lately. um, Cross with my Buddha shirt. um, my Ramana in the background. There's just this interesting insight of outside of the experience of samadhi or deep peace, it's very easy to argue with what I'm about to say. And then in it, it's like, wow, this is all that really matters. It's just this deep peace it's unspeakably precious. But it's so funny, you know, not in the experience of it, then there's like, oh, but what about this? And what about that? And there's like all these other issues. And when I'm really sitting in it, or I'm not saying what I'm experiencing right now is it that Ramana talked about, is the self, but getting close to that, um, I'm like, wow, this is some good shit. That was kind of a joking way of saying, wow, this is precious. Hi, second viewer. Oh, they left. Maybe the cross scared them away. Maybe they were a vampire. Yeah, there's kind of this feeling of like, yeah, I could just do this all day, be in this deep state, be authentic. Sounds good. Sounds like a design for living. Yeah, there's just deep spaciousness right now, this feeling. Now it's not as really centralized on the body. Also, I say that, then it comes back to the body. But amidst that spaciousness, there's this wondering, like, what are people going to think? How are they going to react? And then that just vanishes. There's kind of these all these funny feelings of like, oh, this is how satsang should be, and like, oh, I've created a new model for satsang, and I don't know. Deep like the ocean. so curious about this person who's been watching the whole time. Reminded of an insight I had a couple weeks ago. I got into some addictive behaviors hardcore. And at a certain point, I realized that addiction is just a unskillful way of seeking samadhi, of seeking the self, because it just suppresses thoughts and feelings. And in this moment, there's kind of this feeling of ripeness of like just to throw myself at the feet of Ramana or at the feet of Jesus and just be like, take me. There's a quote of Ramana that comes to mind. Let's see if I can find it. Someone asked Ramana, can I throw myself at the mercy of the Sadguru? Ramana said, yes, instructions are necessary only so long as one has not surrendered oneself. And he also said, there are two ways. Either ask yourself, who am I, or submit. Submit to me, and I will strike down the mind. There is no better karma or bhakti than inquiry into self. The second path is the way of self-surrender, the way of Sharangati. Probably mispronouncing that. Surrender to that. Surrender yourself to the universal, and you will be absorbed in the universal. I'm really struck by this phrase, submit to me and I will strike down the mind. I'm like, in this moment, I'm like, I'm down. I'm very down for that. There's just this lingering question. Do I submit to Ramanas? Do I submit to Jesus? Do I submit to Bruno? He's one of my, I'm a super big fan of that man, Bruno. It says, surrender yourself to the universal and you will be absorbed in the universal. So maybe it's not so important who or what I surrender to. Just that I surrender. I gotta say, this piece is priceless. I would give my legs. I'd give my legs to have this piece forever. All right, friends. Thank you for joining in. That was delicious. I'll be doing more of that. Thanks to the live viewers. Whatever this thing is, whether you call it self or God, it's good. It's really good. It's actually the best. Take care. Much love.